Hello everybody, I am Jim T-Shirt and this is my latest Carrara tutorial, this time talking about using fake GI. So first things first, why in the name of God would you want to use fake global illumination in Carrara when it can do the real thing? Well, the answer is simply because of rendering time. Carrara is one of the faster applications out there, but global illumination does take some time to render. It's not ideal for animations. And it's not ideal for scenes where you've got lots of geometry, like lots of Vickies and Michaels and whatnot. Learning how to fake the GI is a very useful skill, and it's actually widely used in the CG industry, probably more so than using a full GI. So let us get started. Here we are in Carrara's assembly room, and I have a stonemason scene loaded up here. This is actually a poser set. And I'm going with this set for the tutorial because not only is Stefan an amazing artist, he's also very smart when it comes to the design of his sets. This whole set piece is actually divided into separate objects. The ground, the buildings are all separate. And that is imperative for this type of lighting. So first things first, I'm going to frame my shot here, get things set up. I'm going to show the production frame. I'm going to go for a bit of a dramatic angle here. And I always like to bank my camera because it looks cool. Alright, switch over to the director's camera. And I'm going to take my ambient scene light and turn it down to 0. I don't need it. And for the backdrop, I'm going to use a bi-gradient. You could use a realistic sky, but I want to show you what can be done with just scene lights and a backdrop. So bi-gradient it is. I'm going to start by taking the blue color and going with a bit more of a pale blue. Looks more real. And I want an endless sky here, so I'm going to take the end sky and the ground colors and I'm going to turn them all to some kind of shade of white. Hop back to the main camera. Let's do a quick test render, see where we're at. And as you can see right here, there is no light in the scene whatsoever. You can just see the silhouettes of the buildings, and that is exactly what I want for now. Now what I'm going to try to accomplish here is I want to create a nice outdoor scene, obviously, on a nice bright sunny day with lots of sunlight. And like I said, I'm just going to use lights to accomplish this. So for this type of a scene, there are 3 forms of light that we have to think about. And they are sunlight, skylight, and indirect light. And I'm going to start by dealing with the skylight. So let me insert a distant light into the scene. Now if you're new to Carrara, a distant light is basically a directional light. It has no source, it's just light coming from a direction. These lights are huge, and this light object that loads into the screen is nothing more than an arrow letting you know where the light is headed to. It makes no difference whatsoever where this light is in the scene. The only thing that matters is the rotation of this object. So I know I'm moving it up here to the top. This is just for my own organizational method. If I have to come back to the scene in a couple weeks, at a glance I know that this is probably a skylight. But you can skip that step. It's not necessary. Like I said, it doesn't matter where this light goes. So I'm going to call this skylight, obviously. And for the color, I'm going to go with a similar shade of blue to what I used in my bi-gradient, although this time I'm going to go a little bit darker and deeper. Now for the shadows, because I'm at a distance from the buildings, I don't have to do anything fancy. If you are doing a close-up of, let's say, Victoria 4, you're probably going to want to go with soft shadows. And if you do so, the radius of the shadows needs to be hundreds of feet at least. Skylight doesn't produce much in the way of shadows, and these distant lights are huge, so be warned. You will take a hit on rendering time. So I'm going to cheat for the purpose of this tutorial, and I'm actually going to just leave the shadow options alone and turn the intensity down to 15%. And for the brightness, I'm going to turn this down to, let's say, 35%. I said 35, thank you. And actually, let me adjust the color just a little bit. Now, skylight is obviously light from the sky, from the atmosphere, and it's going to be coming down on the scene from all directions at a downward angle. So one light is not going to do it. I'm going to have to make a bunch of copies of this guy now. So I just grabbed my universal manipulator tool, and to make a copy of anything in Carrara, you just simply use the keyboard shortcut Control-D for duplicate. So I'll make a copy of this guy, and I'm going to have him pointing to the left. Now, if I Control-D again, you can see that the copy that Carrara made has the translation and the rotation that the previous copy did. This can be a very handy little feature of Carrara, but in our case here, it's just going to get in the way. So let me undo that, and I'm just going to keep copying my first light over and over again to get around that. So this guy, I'm going to have him moving to the right. Make another copy, rotate it so that it's towards the front of the scene. Again, keeping my downward angle in mind. And lastly, one going towards the back. Now I'm going to do a quick test render. And as you can see, our scene looks rather blue and a little dark.